For another session with us. We're using these sales room sessions just as a bit of a kind of a preceder to going on tour, and obviously a bit of a teaser for you as well and things really. So thanks for joining us. We're going to do another two, I believe, before we get the tour underway, with different topics kind of being covered. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, we're going to be covering the family portrait. We're going to be looking at products. We're looking at kind of the basic elements of upselling, and we're going to be kind of looking at perhaps offers or kind of maximising the sale a little bit more. So get the questions into Jay as soon as you can, because it'll allow us enough time. Remember, today is only running for half an hour again. Okay, so last session we talked about setting up the viewing room and preparing for the client for the sales room itself in a basic way. Now, obviously what I'm doing is giving you a little bit of information, but on the sales room tour we're actually covering everything in full, and probably the post-session pre-sale is the thing that you're going to be absolutely blown away with when you actually come on tour, and it'll change the way that you run your business forever, probably actually in-person sales. So Jay, is there any questions following on from last week's session, and where can they go and view that last session?
Well, the session itself, if they've missed it, the best place is to go and see it. We have it on our Facebook page. So that's the Photographer Academy Facebook page, and it's also available on the Photographer Academy YouTube channel, so they can go and view that 30-minute session there. A few of the key questions, there's sort of a couple of reiterations were there, was I think you're going to be talking about it tonight, this afternoon anyway, but one of the main questions was like, how do I turn a no sale into a sale, was sort of the main thing. And we also had a few people ask us about what the Xperience group is. So, and there's obviously some more, but I know we're going to cover them in the session first, so I'll hang on to those.
Okay, so let's talk about those later on, if that's okay, Jay, before we kick off with those questions then. But nothing following from last week, was there?
Nothing specific.
Okay.
Sorry, no.
Perhaps they might come in at the end because they might not have expected this slide up. Okay, but the setting up the viewing room, if you haven't watched that session that we did last week, please go and watch that, because it could actually change even the most simplest way, and it could actually have a great effect on your sales room session straight away as well with it. Okay, so please go and watch that one session with it. Okay, so today we're talking about the family portrait. Why? Well, that's basically what we built up our business being over the 30 odd years that we were running studios. And for me, probably the most important. Why? Because I feel that family portrait photography is very close to my heart. It's still the biggest regret that I have that I didn't photograph my parents before they died and things really. So again, there's those regrets, and it just makes sure today that you basically are kind of living up to your own promises really. So in other words, just don't promote family portraiture. You should actually be taking your own family portraits or getting somebody else to do it, as I recommend to everybody actually who's in photography, is to go through the experience themselves and often. So family portraiture, what's it about? Well, there's often many reasons to get the client through the door, none of which by design they usually decide to do themselves. And that's one of the things probably I'm a specialist at, is bringing the client physically through the door itself, especially today on social media. It's so fast that you can drag clients through the door, but you've got to make sure that at least you are dragging the right clients through the door, and of course you're not spending too much money in bringing that client through the door. I mean, I've heard of people, and there's been people on Xperience as well with us, that are paying so much money for, they're buying leads, and I often call that a lazy lead. And I know it is a type of business, and a type of business some of you run, but I always want to generate my own lead coming through my door, and eventually then I know the type of client that I want. I can go and find and get that client and drag them through the door myself, instead of relying on even lazy things like Facebook and things. And you mustn't get addicted to this. So the family portrait, 2 generations or more, particularly I'm looking for a specific client. I'm looking for a 45 to 65-year-old client with kids, whether they're young or old, but they really actually start at 45 years of age. That's just specifically, you might be a newborn photographer, and obviously you're looking at clients from the age of 22 to 38 or whatever it would be, but I would just say, just absolutely make sure that the type of client you're attracting in is your type of client to your business. That's key, because when we get them into the sales room, we need to ensure that that client has the type of money to spend that I want them to spend. And this is one of the big things. If you don't do any refinement to your client base, especially the more experienced, the more clients you've gone through, the more you understand your business and so on, basically what you'll do is just actually be hitting the low or no sale more often than not, and you want to kind of stay away from that. So the family portrait for me is either going to be on location or in studio. I offer both. But basically, I want to make sure that during the session, I'm maximizing the variety, but minimizing what I'm going to be showing to the client. One of the things that we're going to be showing to you on tour is a session done by one of the experienced photographers, so an independent photographer. And then we're going to be showing you what he was showing to the clients. And then I'm going to show you how I edited them down even more. And I just did a bit of post-production finishing to maximize ready for the sales room. So when we talk about the family the portrait and variety, it's not also the variety that we take, but it's the variety that we decide to show. That's very, very important. Otherwise, you can end up showing the clients photographs that you think are great, when in fact they're not going to be any good actually as far as wall portraiture is concerned and so on. What are we trying to sell them? Well, we're trying to sell them for 40-inch glass, and so we know our type of client, we know exactly what they're trying to do. And within the Xperience group, we hold at least one face-to-face group meeting, as far as where we invite a type of client in, a mixture of them, and then we discuss during this brainstorming exactly what they want to do and how they want to buy and what they like and what they're prepared to pay. And last year we held our kind of first focus group for the Xperience, and they were absolutely floored, and that's something that we're continuing on later on this year when they meet again in November for the big face-to-face, the 2-day event where all the groups get together. But we've got another focus group. It's understanding who your client is and what the client wants is the first part of the secret to the sale. Because if you understand the basics of that, it means you can cherry pick the type of products and cherry pick your pricing to suit that client to their best ability and things really. So as far as when we're looking on tour, when we're looking at the variety of photographs, I'm going to just kind of spend a little bit of time, and you'll instantly see the difference in what a photographer, an experienced photographer, is willing to show to a client as his viewing, and actually what I was recommended that they actually edit and actually post-finish just a little bit more to get to that point. And I think that again will be another secret in that kind of stepping stone on that day for you to actually realize the importance of making sure and you'll understand how to present and kind of choose the right images for the client itself. Any questions coming through on that at all, Jay?
Sorry, I had a load of questions about the tour, so I've been answering those frantically. So I've just checking the question panel. No, all the ones I'm to do with the tour at the moment, mate.
Okay. So as far as what products I want them to show, now this is where I touched on this last session a little bit, where we're looking specifically at what are we actually trying to sell the client. So if we look on the picture in front of us, we can see that there's a 40-inch glass large photograph of the 3 kids there, plus there's 3 12x8s running down the side and things. So the benefit of this, you can see how they all work together as a collection and how funky they look, and they actually match because they don't match. And this is one of the things that you've got to be aware of, is actually people's tastes are different to what yours are. And when you start to select and choose your products that you're going to be selling to the client, you've got to think a little bit more like IKEA, but a really posh, expensive one. So in other words, you know, if you walk through the kind of the IKEA room sets, you'll see what they're trying to give the clients ideas how they can actually put their images on wall decor and everything else with it. And this is the same when you walk through a photography kind of exhibition or show. We've got 3 of our trade partners on tour with us: Loxley's, Kaleidoscope, and 3XM Solutions. And basically what you'll be doing is kind of looking there and going, ooh and ah, I really need to show this off and so on. And that's great, but it's understanding what your kind of client really wants from you is key. So in this product section for a minute, let's just talk about kind of who the client is. So let's just change tack to a different type of client than what is mine for a minute. And we'll think of them that they are a 40-year-old young family and basically what do they want from us. Well, the first thing, if we go into products, let's go into Kaleidoscope's site for a minute, and we look at the alternative framing for 1 minute. Now, last time we talked about the installations and the box installation, and I feel that this is still that perfect kind of product that you want to actually be showing on your wall. And the one we have behind me, just to my left-hand side here, that, as I explained last time, was the IF08, but it's the IF11 is our best-selling product and things really, as well as the IF13. So understanding that is good, but you want to have alternatives. Now, for me, the biggest plague in our industry over the past 10 years is basically been these multi-aperture layouts as far as clients are concerned. And for me, this is just a killer. This is basically, all it's doing is allowing you to actually give the client what you feel is best value for money, because they can get more images into the frames, and it's become a habit. And the problem with a habit is that it doesn't allow the sales to grow. So even though this is kind of a great extra sale, is it really the main product that I want to be selling? And the answer to that would be definitely no. And I know through experiences, what we've already done with most of our photographers on the Xperience group, is that when they start to actually take the focus away from multiple images in the same frame, drastically the product begins to sell in a different way, and the profit becomes a little bit bigger. As far as the quality is concerned in the presentation, I'm not knocking that. Again, it's still great, multi-layered, full glass sealed, beautiful framing. I get all that, but as far as what I'm looking at is actually the presentations. What do I want the client to have on their wall? Now, once you kind of start to look at that idea, you start to look at the kind of the different ranges, the different styles that you want to be selling to the client. Let's just pop over to Loxley's for a minute. And if we look into the framing kind of element, and we start to look at the different styles that they do, you'll probably actually kind of go through that. Let's just click on the vintage framing for a minute. And you start to see things like these amazing deco. I absolutely love this. And if I was running a black and white collection, this is definitely a part of what I would want to be selling because of its classic look and feel. And when we start to look at how it sits on the wall, no matter what size, it starts to have an incredible effect. And when we start to add 2 or 3 of these together, just because I don't necessarily want to sell a 10x8 frame for the wall, by the time I've actually chosen this product and I've put the big mount and the big frame around it, then all of a sudden it starts to look like a different animal. So as far as the 10x8 on the wall is concerned, if we look at that, that's £39.35, plus we usually double mount ours. That's going to add on another £2.82. So that all of a sudden, plus the VAT, plus the delivery, you're looking at a £60-ish product for a 10x8 cost. Now, for some of you, that is going to be unrealistic because you're in the kind of the different pricing product game. And this is where you have to play your own kind of element. So we touched on the heritage before, in fact. If we just go to the framing and we go to the heritage again, this is very, very similar to the deco, but it's just a cheaper molding. And because it's a cheaper molding, of course, it makes it cheaper for us to actually buy, and hence it will make us possibly cheaper for us to sell, especially if we're watching all the pennies and pounds, as it were. So once more, that 10x8 is now £14 less, basically, than the deco was. So when we start to put our collections together, we start to need to really pay attention to all those little pennies because they make a big difference. Now, for me, all I would do is say, okay, in fact, the most expensive product in here, in the product range at 10x8 is £53.58. So that's the Gosford and the Renaissance and the Baroque. So if I go back up again, I go for the Gosford, which was it again? The Gosford, the Baroque. Lost that a minute. And the deco, we've got that. Renaissance. There we go. So if we look at those for a minute, They're very similar products, but again, once again, different in their kind of quality and finish. So I can price for that. And if I want to add a certain look and feel as an extra, then that's okay because it's all built into my price. But if I want to carry, 5 or 10 different moldings, I don't really want to be doing that. I want to make it as nice and simple as I physically can to ensure that the client is given minimal choice. So even though, I touched on this a little bit in the last session, even though you might feel it's better to give the client more choice, it can actually confuse it. And when we start about the products, in fact, we never talk about the product at the sales stage. We always talk about the size. We complete all the sizing before we're then going on to actually choosing how it's going to be presented and what's going to physically go around the image, if anything. And again, we'll explain this and we'll show perfect examples of this when we're actually on tour. All right. So think about what you're trying to achieve in the sale. Think about the type of presentation that you want to actually be selling to the client. And then, of course, making sure that you're finding the right product that you can fit your affordability. So when we start to look at the family, again, remember this session is all about family portraiture. When we start to look at a USB product, I absolutely don't believe that a family by design is coming into you, whether hook or by crook, to go away with a USB full of images, except when you've created such an expensive price list that they can't afford anything else. So that's what we've got to look at. How do we put the right products together to ensure that the client can go away with what they want, paying the money that they can afford, and kind of making sure that they're showing off your photography to its best ability. And I promise you, when we're discussing those things on tour, it's a bit of a minefield, but it's also a kind of a revealing the secrets below the actual kind of the basic techniques in the selling. We've got to actually make sure that we're inspiring the client to buy in every kind of section. So if they wanted, or if you felt that they were buying the USB product, in fact, I would much prefer to sell them or insist on that they were going to buy the likes of the USB and the album together. Now, one of the benefits of being a part of the Xperience group that we get special discounts on products that I've negotiated with the suppliers. And this is one of them. It's my favorite product as far as an album and USB is concerned. We don't always have to put images on the USB, of course. That can be the slideshow, whatever we want to do, besides the point. But what we want to make sure is that these clients are going away with what they want and what they can afford. So, for instance, if we think they've spent out, but the client still wants an album because we've shot all these great images, blah, 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 what's the thing as far as when we get to the books is concerned, we've got to really look, are we trying to sell them something kind of which is an album, or are we looking more at something that they're going to have more of a presentation product? So is it going to be, I was looking for, I forget what it is now. Where the devil's that gone? Sorry guys, my fault. I was looking for the the portrait albums. Why have I lost that? Books it's in. Photo book, donut. You go somewhere so often you can't see the wood for the trees. So for me, these kind of things are absolutely amazing because they're affordable, they're a great little bonus to any sale. So it's one of those things I want to actually kind of make sure that I'm thinking about, that I can include in some of my kind of sales as well with it and things really. And these are also a great design for the studio. So if you're watching on the webcam now, this is can you see this, Jay, okay? I can't see my webcam for some reason.
Yeah, we can see it, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a photo book, and the whole point of this is basically an album, no real design. I just knock this up either in Fundy design if it's multiples, or just kind of dragging and dropping the images that are in the slideshow across the whole album. And what I love about the photo books is the client will leave them out. So they're basically going to be a sales tool for us as well, which is so important for me and things. Any questions on that so far, Jay?
We had a couple of questions with regards to when you were talking about the framing. So you look specifically the deco and those three areas of framing that you talked about. The first one was with regards to the colours that you supply in the frame. Do you just generally get an idea from the customer rather than having all the different colours available to be seen?
Yeah, do you know what? I absolutely hate to see 24 chevrons in a photographer's studio. What I mean by a chevron is this basically the small piece of the frame and things really. Um, Even though we're dealing with wall decor and everything else, there's very few clients that need to have bespoke framing in a certain choice out of 100 frames. In fact, if you're finding that you're taking more time over choosing the frame than you are choosing the photographs, that basically proves my point. So you want to make sure that you're showing and selling to the client exactly what you want them to do. So as far as the deco is concerned and things really, when we start to look at the moldings, you've basically got satin black or satin white. For me, that's all I want to be doing. If there was another framing product that I wanted to add a little bit more of the kind of the woody effect to it and things really, I can jump into heritage. I can just go back once more into the moldings, and I know I've got a wider selection. And you'll usually find that scattered throughout the studio experience, from the time that they walk through the door into the reception, through the galleries, go into the studio, back into the viewing room, through their journey, in fact, they will experience the different colours. Obviously, it's more difficult when you're working from a small space, but I would much prefer to have the likes of these in a small PSD document that I can actually show on my iPad during the sale than physically showing each of the chevrons. I'm not a fan of that at all, but that's just one of that Mark Cleghorn kind of moments, because I've seen photographers in the flesh, I promise you, many, many, many times spending more time on choosing the frame than the client choosing the size on the wall, and it drives me absolutely mad. So minimize your framing, minimize your style, minimize your products, and I promise you everything becomes a lot easier for you and for the client.
Brill, going back, staying on the theme of the deco, and I know you touched on this briefly in the first session we did last week, but I'm not sure if we did cover it today. I missed it if you did. But the sort of general markup rulings on, say, the deco frame?
Okay, so we touched on this before, and nobody, can I just say this? Nobody should give you advice on pricing unless they know your business. All right. But I can give you a rule of thumb, which means that if you're a desperado level, it's 2.5 to 3 times. If you're a normal client, photographer as it were, you can times it by 5. And if you're an aspirational, you can times it by 7 to 9 to 11. All right. So again, what I would say here though, if you're a desperado pricing, the deco is completely the wrong price for you. All right. If you're a desperado, I would try and choose products that are affordable. So in other words, make use of the special offers like the Champion Wall products, because these will help you maximize the profit, and the client doesn't have to spend a lot of money with you to get what they want. And hence, the profit can be the same, in fact, for you selling an expensive product compared to a champion product, because you've realized that you can only charge so much for your actual physicality of the image. So that's the basic way. There's another way that you say, okay, on every client coming through the door, I want to earn £300 profit, £400 profit, £500 profit, whatever it would be. And that's when you start to actually build your collections, which we'll talk about on tour.
Staying on that theme then, what would you advise is the amount of selection that you have as product? So the amount of frames, how many different frames would you probably go for?
Yeah, I haven't got it here, but I actually have a card. I'm just looking for it, so I have it here. I have a card that I give you all when you come on tour, or if you've been on a seminar with me, that basically has 7 products on one side and 7 products on the other side. And that means the maximum that you're allowed to be selling at any one stage is, guess what? 7 products. All right. The other 7 products is what you're looking at for next season, for next year. And basically, before you can introduce a new product, you should be looking at dropping one.
Cool. Again, still on the same theme, and I thought it was quite a relevant question why I hung on to it. So a bit more of a specialist photographer, say boudoir or something a little bit like that, would you have something a little bit more like within the mold and a little bit more gold or a little bit more bling was the term, obviously for that kind of photography? And I presume the answer is yes.
Absolutely. We had something specifically made. If you came on the boudoir tour with me last year, you'll know that we had something specifically made by Kaleidoscope, a very specific product. If you remind me, Jay, we'll take those on tour with us again, because that's a perfect example. And this is the great thing about the likes of Kaleidoscope. If you've got enough turnover and enough requests for it, they will actually find you things very specific to you and give you not quite exclusivity, but it won't be a part of their general range. And that's what they did. They did for us as far as the Xperience group was concerned, and for those who came on tour. So if you remind me, Jay, we'll take those images. But I absolutely, yes is the answer to your question. Very specific to the client.
Brilliant. Where on? Oh, sorry, you've got more. Yeah, I'll hang on to these then. Yeah.
Yep. We're running out of time. We are. Okay. So, how many more questions do you have, Jay?
I've got about 5, but they're sort of general. So if you can crack on.
Okay. Right. So I'll crack on anyway. Let me just bring up the slideshow. I've just lost the slideshow now. Here we go. Okay. So upselling first. I mean, we're never talking hard sell. All right. The first thing to an upsell is to create desire. And the upselling technique is kind of, we all do it. We basically get teased into actually buying something a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. You know, when you go in to buy a handbag for my wife, I'm lucky. She's not into the likes of Gucci and everything else. She's into the Radley series of bags. But every time I buy a bag, they basically say, would you like to buy the polish? Well, now I basically have as much polish as I think she does bags. So the answer I can do is say no. In the same way as you go into McDonald's and they say, would you like to go large? It's exactly that sale, okay? So your skill now is basically in the upsell is how you convert the concept into the photography upsell. This is where I believe the Champion Wall products really do come into their own. So let's just choose what I feel is a standard product and a great selling product, which is basically the box frame. Okay, absolutely love this product. I know it comes in different moldings and blah, blah, blah. Let's stay on tack for a minute. But I absolutely love this for our portraiture as well as our wedding stuff as well. So how do we upsell? Well, the first thing is you've got to make use of the 20 by 6, 16 and 30 by 20 offers that we've got there. So on your price list, you can see now, if we're looking at the Loxley's price list, if you can see that, Jay, that a 2016 is £57, but there's a jump then to a 2420 of £98.99, okay? Which means I've just had a jump of basically £41 increase to go up one size. But look at that, the 30 by 20 is cheaper than the 24 by 20. So in fact, what you can do in your upsell to a client, if they're dithering between the 2016 or whatever, you can give them a quick free upgrade to the 30 by 20 from a 24 inch to nail that sale. And in fact, what you've done, you'll have obviously increased the price because your 30 inch will be slightly more expensive than the 24 inch. But in fact, you're saving money on the product and you're increasing the overall value. So understanding the products you have is an absolutely essential element to any of the upsells. And I promise you, when we do that live on tour, because we've got a good 2 hours during the whole day where we're actually running live sessions of questions and answers, doing fake sales and so on and so on. And you can throw in any questions that you want and it will be absolutely truthful, not a load of, I almost swore then, not a load of crap. It's absolutely straight to the point. I want you to be able to go away from the sales room tour and absolutely add a big percentage to your sales straight away. So the average is going to go through the roof for you compared to where it was. So the secret to the upsell is knowing the products with the most profit and making sure if there's a chance like we have here with the champion product, you maximize that upselling. Then we kind of go into the last kind of topic that we're talking about today, which is offers. And I'm going to talk about putting collections together when we're on tour. And this is a great way for you to have an offer without an offer. And we're going to play the game in so many ways that by the time you leave, you're going to have a great variety of products that you believe in that you can go out there and sell at a much higher price. I've blanked out the prices on here for now with the book now buttons, just so you don't get confused, because this is a dummy price list. We're actually going to have a dummy price list for you on tour, and together we're going to kind of fill it into what you want it to be, so we can create the collection that you want it to be as well. So you're going to have something to fill in there and then, so you can create your own collection, everything else with it. All right. So as far as the collections are concerned, one of my closest friends, they used to run quite a busy studio as well, but he absolutely fought me tooth and nail as far as collections or stroke packages was called. Why? Because they believe that basically they could always upsell higher on average to the bespoke selling. And in fact, it took them, I think, about 15 years through being forced to actually bring collections or packages in, that they actually proved that they could add hundreds of pounds to their average just by bringing in the collections or packages in a very specific way. But they have to be clever. We have to look at them in a very specific way, and that's why I blanked out the prices for now. Only because I didn't want you to get confused and actually kind of go ahead and actually say, that's what he's saying I've got to do, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to put it together. So these are actually just dummies that you're seeing on the right hand side here. This has nothing to do with the product, I promise you. But when you see how we put collections together within the Xperience group, that's really going to help your business as well if you're coming on tour with us. Back to you, Jay.
Okay, well, we have just got a handful of questions. You did answer quite a few of them just then. Going back to the album and the books we were talking about earlier, typically where would you add your branding on these? Is it just the front or all the way through?
No, on the back cover, as you can see on the webcam now. And that usually has a web address as well. If you're going to put it in at all, you could also start it off on the front inside cover if you have the ability for it.
Great. I think you talked, when we were talking right back at the beginning, I think it was more about the installations that you were showing, but it's just popped up at the end here. Would you be more inclined with, like, say, a box installation to be pushing them as a set of 3 rather than individuals to make, is that how? Yes,
agreed. Can I ask a question before we do anything else? I just want to see in the question panel for a minute, okay? Even if you've already booked your place on the sales room tour and you come in, can I just see from the people that we've got left online, just for 1 minute, for just put either yes or no, that's all you got to do, into the question panel. I want to know if today's session has inspired you enough to actually come on tour with us, please. Just put yes and no in the question panel, and we'll take it from that. We're not going to announce it. We're not running any polls. We don't have a chance. But please, 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 I just need to know straight away if today we've inspired you enough to actually be tempted to come on the sales room tour with us and things. So either a simple yes or a no, please. Carry on, Jay.
Great. Well, I would carry on, but the panel's just lit up, so I need to scroll back to the top for a second. Do you always stick to the standard sizes, or do you restrict the range that's available? I think you've touched on that already with the way you structure your price list and stuff like that. You know, when you talked about 7 products.
We do offer a complete bespoke service through the likes of Kaleidoscope. However, we don't mention that on the actual product price list itself. We keep it simple, which we'll talk about more on tour, I promise.
To be honest, most of them now we've actually covered. The other one is going back to frames. Do we offer a large amount of mount styles, or do you restrict that also?
We restrict that as well.
Brilliant. I'm just checking now. I'm just going to the end of the questions to see if there's anything else come in after the
We've
questions.
technically run out of time, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? So I just wanted to get that kind of quick thing in, if that was okay. Look, guys, we're back in a couple of weeks again. Get your questions in. If you want us to cover anything in the session after that one specifically, because you can't come on tour, you can't afford to come on tour, whatever it is, I'll try and address it. But again, if you're committing to coming on tour with it, you're going to have an absolutely brilliant time, I promise you, and you're going to go away with an absolutely head full of things to change within your business and to make a difference straight away. And of course, if you're interested in the Xperience group, we're building group 4 now. It's not too soon to join and things really. We've got an amazing offer running at present. I'm not sure if Jay's put the link out for the tour yet, but to get to the tour, you can either go from the live events page on the Academy and click onto any of the sales part here, and this will take you off to the Mark Cleghorn sales room part. I'll just put it in the chat panel anyway, in case he's already done it. I'm sure he already has done, but in case, I'll put it in there. I can't see what he's done. But if you're interested on the Xperience group, we've basically completely helped you to join. We're basically taking away the £500 joining fee, in fact. So that will allow you to actually join the group straight away, in fact. So the total cost is usually £3,704. But you can join now on Group 4 and save the £500 joining fee. So basically it works out at 12 payments of £267, including VAT, and you can get going with us straight away. In fact, if you joined today, theoretically you could actually be online with us for the next webinar session on Tuesday. You wouldn't be getting together with us as our first Group 4 meeting. That's in January. But we'd be having your first one-to-one with me in the next 6 weeks. That's now an hour and a half straight away. You'd be getting our kind of questionnaire. We'll helping you with all the catch-up training that we need you to get up and into place straight away. And you'll also have your one-to-one session with Jay on Facebook Guru, because that's what he's become now. And basically lots and lots. So if you're interested in joining the Xperience group at all, don't delay just to get to the tour. It's the same price that we're running on tour that we are here. And so if you just go onto the Mark Cleghorn the markcleghorn.com page, hover over training, click onto the Xperience group and you'll come here. Or if you're interested in the sales room, click onto the sales room tour and you can go from that. Any last questions, Jay?
No, I think we've just been scanning through them, nothing that we haven't already covered. And I also just wanted to add that obviously if anybody wants to talk to me about the Xperience group, just give me a shout, just call the studio, we can arrange a time in a session, or just ping me an email. I'd be happy to arrange a conversation there to see if the Xperience is for you. Mark, another great session, mate. I know we ran over a little bit, but jam-packed as always. Thank you very much. And as Mark said, we can't do one next week, unfortunately, but we will be back the week after and we'll get you the links out ASAP. And hope to see you all on the tour at the end of September. Thanks now. Take care, guys. All the best.